Good afternoon, everyone. It's officially 12:01. I'd like to welcome you all to the SBDC webinar, Nature-Based Tourism. I will be your host. I will be your tour guide today, per se, and we're going to talk about nature-based tourism, aka ecotourism, here based in Maine. We're going to give business perspective. We've got some really neat special guests in the room. I'm going to talk about them in just a minute, but thank you all for taking your lunch break to do this. We appreciate it. I'm excited to just to give you this information today. You're going to see some really neat stuff. So I'm going to jump in because we have a lot of content to cover. Let's get started. And I want to go over some housekeeping rules. This webinar will be sent to you after the presentation. This is being recorded, so you will be able to see it on the SBDC YouTube site, which is phenomenal, has a lot of great resources. But I will also send you a PDF copy of the webinar because there are clickable links in it, and that will allow you to go to those resources. So grab a cup of coffee, sit back, relax, take notes if you want, but all the links that are in there, you'll be able to have access to after that, right? If you could, please keep yourself on mute. That's helpful. And then we're going to take all the questions at the end. So I'd like you all to submit any questions you have in the chat. And then we should wrap up with about 10 minutes to finish, and then we can answer those there. All right, super excited. I'd like to thank our guest speakers today that have joined us. We have Brian Threlkeld. He's with Maine Outdoor Brands. He's their marketing director, right? I'm going to give a really short intro to him, but he is very in touch with not only the business type community, but also the brands that are associated for Maine, right? So he's going to give his perspective, some of the more granular data of like, what is the economic impact here in Maine? He's got some really neat stuff. And then also would like to thank Hannah Collins. She's from the Maine Office of Tourism. She's the deputy director from the Maine Office of Tourism. And so she actually had some really special treats for us because they just crunched the 2023 data and it's not even released yet. She's going to release some of that data today to say what happened last year, what happened last summer, how many people came, what they did, how long they stayed. Also, a really neat thing that she does every year is she's going to give you 5 things you can do today. So I'm going to encourage you to hang on for her today because she's got some really neat data to share with us today. Just a little bit about myself. I'm Peter Piconi. I'm your host today, and also I'm the SBDC advisor for the Midcoast. I'm based here in Camden, Rockland, Maine, right? And my perspective is this. My background, I own my own business on the West Coast for 20 years. I was a captain, had an offshore guiding service, fly fishing, right? Had a retail storefront. So I was part of the working waterfront. So I'm a marine person, right? So I did that for 20 plus years, chasing fish all over the world. So that's my lens. I was also a biologist. So I'm a dual threat when I talk about these kind of businesses, but I'm empathic and I'm a seeker of knowledge. So I love to learn. I'm fascinated by not only what your business does, but where it's going, right? So I love to talk strategy with clients, ideation. I can be a good connector for resources. Any advisor from the Maine SBDC is a great connector to resources for you. So with that in mind, what does the SBDC do? What do we represent? Number one, first and foremost, we offer no-cost business advising to any Maine business or entrepreneur, startup or existing, right? Some of the things where we can be helpful to your business, there's planning and startups, you need to write a business plan, just doing strategy. We're great at that stuff. If it's credit and financing, what if you need capital to get started? It's an option. Or if there's a fiscal analysis, like Peter, here's my P&L. What is going on? Because these numbers don't make sense. We can help you walk through that process, discern. Right? Then marketing and sales. Some of you might be going, hey, I want to see 20% more people. What's the best way to market? How does it work? Right? Am I using Google Ads or am I doing Facebook posts? Right? We have experts on staff for that. Then operational management. What if some of you are actually scaling up? They're going, I'm going to add 4 new staff members. Operationally, what does that look like? Managerially, from an HR perspective, what do we do? And then succession planning. This is a huge thing in Maine. A lot of legacy businesses are owned by families, generation to generation. and very few of them have a plan in place. So we can also help with that. If you do need advising, this will be part of the PDF. So you can actually scan this with your phone. It'll take you to our page and you can register for advising. You will get the advisor closest to you. If you'd like to advise with me, I love advising in this sector. You can select my name, Peter Piconi. So what's our roadmap for today? Where are we going? This is what it looks like. We're going to start out with Brian from the Maine Outdoor Brands, and he's going to look at the outdoor industry metrics, the economics. What's the value add back to the community, right? Numbers, things. And then right in the middle of these two great speakers, you get myself. And from a business advisor perspective, I'm going to give you some of the principles of nature-based tourism and look at how those models might work and just show you what's out there. It's a 30,000 foot view, but it'll be valuable for a lot of you, right? And then Hannah's going to bring us home. She's going to give us the latest, greatest data. It's not even out yet on Maine. What happened last year for tourism, right? And Hannah's coming from the Maine Office of Tourism, so she's going to detail those. That's where we end up today. So I'm going to hand this off to Brian from Maine Outdoor Brands.
Hey, thanks so much, Peter. Hi, everybody. My name is Brian Threlkeld. And quick correction, Peter, I'm just the membership director at Maine Outdoor Brands now. We actually are a team of 3. We've been growing over the last year, and so we actually have another full-time marketing director, which has been fantastic. And it's great to see some of our member brands here. We've got Justin from the Hostel of Maine. We have Leanna Bonds from the Ecology School. And I saw CC Danforth from Maine Coast Heritage Trust. So just want to give a shout out to you 3. But really, I'm just here to kind of give people that, as Peter said, that 30,000 foot view of Maine Outdoor Brands first, but then kind of the overall economic impact of outdoor recreation, first on the national level and then on the state level. And then I'll drill down on some participation numbers from the Outdoor Industry Association, and then talk about kind of what does the future look like for the outdoor recreation economy and industry in Maine. So Peter, thank you. So just a general overview of what Maine Outdoor Brands does. We are a 501c6 nonprofit, so we're a trade association, and we represent businesses, nonprofits across the state who are helping to facilitate an outdoor experience of some kind. And our mission is to really just help grow and strengthen the outdoor recreation economy here in Maine. Just a little smattering of some of our member brands. We cover everything from product manufacturing to service to retail and, like I said, nonprofits. A lot of cool, innovative things happening here in the state. Also, a lot of legacy brands, things like Old Town Canoe, Sean Tenney, obviously LL Bean, but then newer kind of bigger brands like Good to Go, Mainers, and then some of our nonprofit members. We've got everything from LL Bean to the Kindling Collective, which I'll talk about a little bit later too. So it's a great collaboration of people and of organizations and businesses all coming together and working together to kind of help each other out. And if you're a new business, people have been there, and we have a network of folks who have been there and can lend a hand back and kind of help you along the way. And so some of the stuff we do is networking, education, advocacy, workforce development, collaborative marketing, and it's a really great thing to be a part of. So, just quick overview. We now have 12 board members, which is great. We've been around since 2017. And since that time, I think we started with 20 brands that first year, and we continue to grow year over year. I think we're now around 185 member brands in all 16 counties. Almost 30% of our brands are women owned, which is pretty fantastic. In 2023, we welcomed 31 new members. So far in 2024, I believe we've welcomed 10 new members already, and we're still in Q1. So that's pretty awesome. The Bureau of Economic Analysis has, over the last 10 years or so, started measuring the impact of outdoor recreation in various sectors. And it's been a fantastic thing for organizations like MOB to be able to kind of stake our claim and and help people understand that this outdoor recreation industry generates a lot of money across the country and for Maine. And so this last year, the outdoor recreation was around a $560 billion industry. And this can give you a little bit of, breakdown between retail and services, manufacturing, all that kind of stuff. Maine continues to rank pretty high in our contribution to the state GDP. Overall, we rank sixth in the country in terms of that contribution to state GDP. It's about almost 4% of Maine's economy, and it's actually growing faster than the state economy. And so that's always something that's really cool. I think a lot of people outside of Maine think that outdoor recreation happens out west. It's in the mountains, it's in the big rivers, but Maine and I'll nod to the rest of northern New England, but we've got a lot of great stuff going on, and there's ample opportunity for growth and ample opportunity to kind of commemorate where we've come from. So, looking at the numbers in our state, not just in the country, the outdoor recreation economy is about a $3.3 billion industry here in the state. You can see from this chart that it's grown steadily since we started getting the report back in 2017. Obviously, a big dip in 2020 and a remarkable jump from 2021 to 2022. The Bureau of Economic Analysis releases numbers usually in October, November from the previous year. So we just got the numbers for 2022 just last fall. So it'll be interesting to see what happens for 2023 numbers. I would imagine things are going to stay relatively flat, but I think that'll depend on kind of what areas you're looking at. So this is just kind of one of our fact sheets. It's cool that 5% of jobs in Maine are in the outdoor recreation economy or industry. Manufacturing alone contributes $350 million to the state. And the numbers down at the bottom are kind of small, but I think very noteworthy. In particular, snow activities are up 36%, and guided tours and outfitter tours are up 26% from 2022. And so just if you're thinking about starting a business or anything like that, I think those two areas are pretty solid to put your money on. I also like to talk about the outdoor recreation economy is not just a singular thing. And I know Justin from Hostel Maine can speak to this too, but we're really trying to strengthen communities and not just the economy. I think there's so many great contributions that being in the outdoors provides, and it's not just business and dollars. It really is, the health of communities, it's people's well-being, it's jobs, it's people moving into the state. I think it's really just this like positive circular feedback loop that happens once you get more people outside. They get hooked on climbing or canoeing or skiing or sailing or whatever, and they bring that joy into other areas of their life and share it with people, and it just becomes this virtuous cycle. So these are participation numbers from the Outdoor Industry Association for 2020 up to 2022. And you can find these on the OIA website if you want to dive a little bit deeper. Participation is generally increasing. Obviously, in the height of COVID, the outdoors tended to be the safest place to be, and so a lot of people gravitated there. Since COVID is kind of in the rear view-ish, that started to change just a little bit, and those numbers have started to taper. However, it's interesting when those numbers get broken down a little bit more to see which areas and demographics are continuing to pursue outdoor activities and how often and in kind of what capacity. So these are a little hard to see on this chart, but the biggest one at the top is snowshoeing, which I think is pretty cool and illustrative of a few things. And that is that there are a lot of first-time outdoor participants. And I think recreating in the winter is still a very novel thing for a lot of people, even though here in Maine, we might take it for granted despite the winter we've had here. But I think people are looking for entry-level experiences overall. and definitely guided experiences because people want to learn how to do these things and be able to take those skills and do them on their own. And so snowshoeing, it's a great way to be outside, enjoy nature. It's quiet, it's peaceful, and it doesn't take a lot of money to get into, and you don't need to build up a huge skill set to be able to do it successfully. And then camping is another big one too. I think camping comes in all shapes and forms. I think it's important to note that RVing is one of the biggest contributors to the outdoor rec industry here in Maine. And I think that's just because a lot of people tour around in their RVs and like to camp in RVs, but a lot of people have to car camp and camp in lean-tos, camp in tents. And so those things continue to trend upwards out of the pandemic. Looking at who is participating in the outdoors, the LGBTQIA plus community has really kind of risen to the top in terms of people who are getting outside more. And so I think if you're thinking about who your target audience is or who you're speaking to that you want to come and experience what you're offering, I think it's really important to keep in mind it's for everybody. The outdoors is absolutely for everybody. And so the way that you message, the way that you market is really important. Because you don't want to make anybody feel like they're being excluded from the opportunities that you're offering. Just a couple highlights of cool brands that are doing some cool things. The one on the left is a small business in Portland called Sam Bob. Sam Bob is a weird name for a business, but it's Samuel Roberts who started it. And he was a wildlife biologist and moved to Maine. And in the pandemic, he started sewing and started creating these custom fleece hoodies, and he's really taken off. He's got a huge following with the ultralight hiking community, and is just doing really cool, fun stuff. And so I highly encourage you to check him out. And then the Kindling Collective, which I'd mentioned at the top of this, is a queer-focused gear library in Portland as well. And they're not just providing gear for folks, but also experiences. And so it's a great way to reduce barriers of entry for people who have historically felt marginalized and disadvantaged when it comes to experiencing things that are predominantly, exclusive. So, and then the one on the right is a brand. Oh gosh, I forgot where Rob's based. Somewhere around Skowhegan, but it's called Snow Yak, and he's developed a sit ski. And it's not just for adaptive athletes, but he's also noticed that parents of adaptive athletes want to participate in sliding downhill on snow in a way that their kids do. And so this is a kind of a new thing that is different from traditional sit skis. And it's a really, really cool product, and he's had great success so far. And it's just cool to see what's happening here in Maine. So just getting back to a little bit of where Mob is right now and where we're going. Like I spoke about, we're doing a lot of collaborative marketing, a lot of advocacy. There's a trails bond that's in the legislature right now that we're hoping to get passed out of committee to provide $30 million towards trail infrastructure and improvements. We're also focused on workforce. We really know that it's important with an aging population here in the state to build a pipeline from elementary school all the way to a career. And so how are we working with the university systems and post-secondary schools to kind of provide those opportunities for students to get into and then to get out of into the real world. And then I think our bread and butter really comes from networking and education. We've got an outdoor economy summit that happens every year. We'll be doing it again in November at Sunday River. But it's a great opportunity to kind of lift your head up and see the forest for the trees and understand just the impact that we're having on the state and how many people are involved in it. Looking ahead, we've been partnering with the Maine Office of Outdoor Recreation, which is housed under DECD, along with the University of Maine to develop a 10-year economic roadmap for the state. Other industries have done it, forest products. Maine is a big one that's going around right now. But we really want to know how we can continue to grow this sector of the economy, what things we need to put in place to help facilitate that, and then what kind of landmarks do we want to put out there and surpass and make sure that we're making this happen. So just quick goals, the roadmap, seeing where things are now, defining what it is, what are the strategies, what are the investments that we need to fuel growth, and then what are the partnerships and the collaborations that are going to help secure investments and implement the strategies that we've identified. If you're interested in getting involved in the roadmap work, it's happening now. There's going to be a statewide kind of listening session and input session happening. And so, these are some of the main stakeholders that are involved. So reach out to anybody if you're interested. And then lastly, I just want to give a nod to Caroline Roulette and Jeff McCabe at the Office of Outdoor Rec. Jeff is a new deputy director there it's a new position, which is really exciting. And Maine Outdoor Brands is one of our first goals was actually to help get this office established. And so it's been a great partnership to just help elevate the work that we're doing, give it more credibility. And it's just been a phenomenal success. So that's all I've got. I'm going to hand it back to Peter, but thank you everybody for your time. I really appreciate it.
Brian, thank you. That was super informative. It's nice to get that cutting edge stuff. We really appreciate all the work that MLB does to create that sense of community in Maine and gives us kind of a roadmap. So we appreciate it. But all right, back to me for just a few minutes here. I want to start out with this theory. So we're going to go up to 100,000 feet. These are principles of ecotourism. I promise not to get too heady here, but when you think about ecotourism, right, what do you think about? What comes to mind? Are you in Costa Rica? Are you in Maine? And then how do those people practice those principles, right? One of the key portions of what they do is they create sustainable business practices. It could be from utilizing horses instead of cars, right? Less of a footprint, right? One of the things they're going to want to do to be sustainable is have a development plan that works within their community, right? So they're just not coming in, planting and going, I'm going to give people tours. They're working within that community to align their mission and their vision with that community. So they're not stepping on any toes, whether that be tribal rights or that just be town rights, right? These are important parts of how we operate in the business sector, right? And a big portion of what they do is environmental stewardship, right? They are educators first and foremost. And so people that enter this sphere of business for nature-based tourism, you're educators in so many ways because you're teaching people not only how to go out in the environment, but you're teaching them how to interact in that. So I'm actually pushing some of these things onto our audience today because this is where we'd like you to operate from a business perspective, right? When you're giving travel to Maine or anywhere else, and you're travel to unspoiled natural areas or natural resources or semi-unspoiled, right? Consider ways to minimize the impact of visitors, right? And then consider your overall impact going, I can provide jobs to local populations or there's economic impacts, right? If someone comes and they stays at a hotel, there's an impact. Someone comes and they buy a sandwich at the sub shop, there's an impact. So these are all principles that you want to operate as part of your model or look at how other people do this in their space, right? Now, I want to take you back in time for just a second. Brian had some really good data. And right at 2020, there was a dip in everything, right? And we all know that COVID shifted the world in so many ways, right? There was not a single person, not a single business that didn't have an impact, right? Every business that I advised had to pivot in some way. So I want to look back for just a second and give you context because in 2020, people flocked to the outdoors, right? They did this, many of them for the first time. They found that there were health benefits, there was wellness, and the studies support the research, right? The studies support all this, right? They saw 2020 as an anecdote to what was sitting on their doorstep, right? Not only that, but it helped them maintain a focus in their life. So the outdoors already had a good business model, but COVID really highlighted something that was at people's doorstep, right? Not only was it there, but it was safe and accessible. And it was a way for them to counteract what was going on and they could have safe pastimes with friends and family. So still in 2020, but that's where we're coming from. So we're seeing some trends climbing out of that. This is all things that I learned from the 2021 Governor's Council on Tourism. So this is not stuff I made up. This is stuff that I learned from going to that conference. But what they found was adventure tourism was already showing early signs of recovery. Even though it had dipped significantly, people shifted and they pivoted to the outdoors, right? They used travel as a force for good. Travel now had a purpose because you could reconnect with your mom with 6 feet of separation, right, in the outdoors. And they found things in their backyard, things that they previously may not have seen. That little trail behind someone's house that went over this way, right? They're like, oh, that was so cool. And they saw a deer, right? And they used these localized things to regenerate. There was wellness. There's a new sense of adventure in your own backyard, right? This is what we call hyperlocal economic impact, right? These smaller road trips, these off the beaten path things that are right in your backyard. So I want to call that out a little bit, knowing this is where we've come from. Let's look at some of the things we do here in Maine now. What models of business do we have? And I advise on all of these, but there's sailing, there's fishing, there's sea kayaking, stand-up paddleboard. One thing I'd like to point out is there's a lot of sea farms here in Maine, aquaculture, right? Shellfish, seaweed, aquaculture, scallop fisheries, right? A lot of these businesses that were doing that created farm tours around this, right? So there was a substantial economic benefit for them, and it created a new revenue stream for some of these businesses. That's just one example that I saw happen in the last 3 years. So let's dive in a little more granular on what happens here in Maine. As you know, the striped bass population is firmly established here in Maine. They had a rebound in the population, and because we have waters that are warming, the Gulf of Maine is warming almost faster than any other place in the world. But those populations of striper that migrate here seasonally, now not only there's more of them, but they stay longer, right? So there's more access to these fish. That's one of me in Camden Harbor. So they're coming all the way up to Camden. I can catch them right in my backyard. I love it. I do this from my canoe. It's one of my favorite things to do. That's Curtis Island right there. That's a short paddle, right? And then sailing has a tremendous maritime pastime here, right? It's huge. And the first business that comes to mind or town is Booth Bay, right? And people aren't just going sailing, but they use them for events, right? For a wedding, maybe a bachelorette party, right? Or maybe just to get your team out on the boat and get them out of work, right? You can see nature doing this. These are all models that have been here a while, right? Whale watching is, to me, a little bit lesser known, but there's some really phenomenal things that happen just off our coast. Because of the way the Gulf Stream works and the way the currents work, we can have tuna and tropical species that we would associate further south or warmer waters showing up here, right? And we get some larger mammals that show up for that stuff. There's some really good tours I know out of Booth Bay where you can go check out these large mammals that come right up into our backyard. Also, you're going to see bird tours, right? My background as a biologist, I had a specialty. It was birds and birds of prey. So I'm a bird biologist. This is my favorite thing to talk about, right? And this is probably not a lesser known, but it's done so well here, but on a much smaller level, right? One of the things we can highlight is last year, we had a species of eagle show up from Russia. It's the first time they've ever seen a stellar sea eagle show up in Maine, right? This was all over the internet. This came down. People flocked here from other states and spent money in the middle of winter just to come check out a stellar sea eagle. So this has revenue generating power, right? This is a startup that started up a year or two ago. I'm not sure how they're doing at this state, but this is something somebody started out of Portland. I saw their Instagram site, so I think they're still around, but I'm not sure. But it's neat because they took a vehicle and they put like a tent structure on top of it, and there's a full-on cooler system to keep things cool, and you can rent this and take off, right? So this is one model somebody had the guts to start up, and I want to give them kudos for actually doing that and taking that leap. Another business that is probably very popular, and I'm further north, so it's a little cooler, but these stand-up paddleboards offer a lot of benefits to people, not only from health benefits, but it's a great way to see the outdoors. And as a business model, you could have a few of these and take people on tours, right? Health benefit. This is easy for families. You can bring the puppies. There's that middle image go. So this is a really easy opportunity using resources people might already have, right? People own these already and they sit in there because they're not sure how to get to a lake and use them. So a guided tour makes sense, right? Coastal kayaking has a long tradition here. Actually, I just spoke to Maskey, the Maine Association of Sea Kayak Outdoor Guides. I'm surprised I got that right. to be honest, but I just met with them at their winter meeting and we talked about models for them and how to make their businesses better, right? How does it work? And there's some longtime people here that have been doing this 25 years, some really neat places, a great way to see what Maine is. I want to pause for just a second and not look at the models from what's here, but look at what successful business models that are outdoor based look like, right? Number one, they have family oriented options, right? A group works better than a single in so many ways. You can share that experience, right? Businesses that share low barriers to entry for their excursions make a lot more sense. Is there an afternoon trip? Is there an evening trip, right? How does it work? Is it good for kids? Do you accommodate that person, right? How does it work? And then easy time frames, right? Make it easy. Don't get up at 5 a.m. Maybe offer a kayak trip that starts not at sunrise, but that it starts at 9 a.m. for some of your entry level folks, right? Some of these businesses too can promote themselves just by saying, we are friendly on the environment. We're going to ask that you not drive your vehicle, but drive it to here and then walk down, right? There's ways you can promote your business using these best practices, right? All of these businesses that end up being more successful have education-based routines. I'm going to talk about that more in just a second, and I'm going to feature a local business that I found out about. But anytime you can educate your audience on not only what's happening out there, but how to take it home, works better, right? This creates, through that education, this creates environmental stewardship in what you do. And even people from away that learn this from you can take it back to their home state, right? So there's a secondary and tertiary impact for what we do. And this also, this education, this stewardship leads to better community engagement. Families educate other families. Families in a town will educate their select board, right? So this trickles up. It doesn't have to trickle down. It can trickle up into your local community. So I want to talk about this business called Coast Encounters. Really neat. This is Carol Steingart. She is known as Coastal Carol, and she fell in love with the marine world. She was an educator. She worked at Shoals Marine Laboratory, and she offers intertidal excursions. So she took her passion and her love she did for a lot of her life, and she created a model out of it, and she meets people down there, and she takes all kinds. This is great for families. This is great for adults. People that want to learn about the ecosystem here in Maine, this is a great way to show them. So think about what value you bring to Maine in the outdoors and think about creating a model around it. I want to give just a quick story. I work a lot in the marine aquaculture sector, so I work with lobstermen. They're some of my favorite people, right? This is one of the models that is here in Maine. I just want to play a quick video so you can see how a lobsterman pivoted for part of their revenue.
We have a retired Coast Guard boat, which is a 25-foot safe boat. It was stationed in Buffalo, New York on Lake Erie. Defender is built by the company Safe Boat. They build these boats for the Coast Guard, and they're just an amazing boat. They're built to military standards. It's an aluminum boat. It has a closed cell foam ring around the boat, which is the orange color that you'll see in the pictures. We cruise at 32 knots in good weather, so we can really cover some area fast.
So this is Jason Joyce. He's a business that I worked with to get into shellfish aquaculture, and he's on Swans Island. So not only did he pivot, but he bought another asset, right, from the Coast Guard that they were going to get rid of, right? Then he brought it here to Maine and created a service, and he does birding tours for puffins. He's doing things, and he's up on Swans Island. So, but there's a benefit to what he does that isn't known because he gives back to his community in such a way that Jason's part of the ambulatory team, right? And getting from Swans Island to Bass Harbor is not always easy because the ferry does not run. So if someone has a medical emergency, he can use this boat to safely transport people that may be in a compromised position back to the mainland. This adds tremendous value. He can go rescue boats. He can go help people that might be in trouble, right? And he's licensed for all these things to do, but he's not only doing tours and taking people to the islands, but he's giving this added benefit. So this is another way these kind of businesses give back to their community. Just showing a little bit, he does dinner charters. This is kind of unique, but he takes people out to dinner and then comes back and picks them up. So this is your Uber for the water. Let's go inland just a little bit and look at all the resources you may or may not know about. The river and the lake systems here are phenomenal. We already know about the great trips that are offered on the Allagash, floating in canoes, or on the Penobscot or the Moosehead Lake region, right? We've got a tremendous fishery for not only largemouth and smallmouth bass, but crappie trout is a phenomenal thing. People come here just to catch brook trout, right? So this is well known, but I just want to call this out. This is a phenomenal way to see it. If you just want to hike out and do quarter mile, half a mile, right, in your local outdoors, is great. But there's longer trips you can take, multi-day hikes that allow you to create that sense of isolation, create that bonding with your family potentially, right? And these trips, leading these trips are really fun too. And the fishing in some of these areas are great. That smallmouth bass came right off the coast here. It's only 20 minutes from Camden Harbor, right? That's a great smallmouth bass, but it's just creates an opportunity to engage the environment, not only in a one-on-one format, but for families that work really, really well. And we talked a little bit about the birding and the nature tours, but this, I want to highlight this gentleman. He offers, and he does like a birding phenomenon that happens every year down east. And it's a 3-day event, and people travel from around the world to come to Maine to actually see birds here in Maine, but it's a 3-day event, and he leads trips all over down East Maine. It's really neat. And you can see some very unique birds that you can only see in this northern part of the continental US, right? Because of who we are and what we do, Maine has a tremendous amount of hunting. It's part of our traditions. It's been part of what we do here for so many years. So this is a big part of what we do, but also rock climbing, right? Local guide here, Noah Kleiner, runs Equinox guiding, right? And he's doing the hills right above Barrett's Cove there. So there's plenty of this to be found in Maine and Acadia, a lot of areas. There's ice climbing. Another model that works really well. This is one of my favorites. I'm an amateur photographer and I love taking a hike with the camera. I usually don't get very far from hiking with the camera, unfortunately, right? Because I want to stop and take pictures of that flower. It's a great way to engage kids. Great way, because they can not only learn about something, a machine or on their phone, you can teach them how to do it and they already have a phone, right? And they're going to want to hike further and do more because they're looking for that next great shot, or maybe it's that next great selfie of them in nature. We touched base a little bit on backpacking. It's a great way to go, especially for families. Requires a little more planning and things like that, but there's some really neat 1, 2, and 3-day hikes that are perfect for smaller groups. All right, I'd like to hand it off to Hannah. Now, Hannah, please take it away.
Hi, everyone. My name is Hannah Collins. I am the Deputy Director over here at the Maine Office of Tourism. I'm going to go over a little bit of who we are, what we do, and some ways that you can engage with us with your nature-based business, or if you're looking to start a business, there are a few things we can help you with. So first of all, who are we? We are a state agency that operates underneath the umbrella of the Department of Economic and Community Development. As Brian had mentioned, we also work very closely with the Office of Outdoor Recreation here at the DECD. We lead, convene, and advance the state's tourism economy by providing resources and education to strengthen the tourism industry, fostering a culture of stakeholder collaboration, and developing strategy and best practices to promote and enhance the Maine experience for all. And so in that, here are our 5 core values, and a lot of these core values that we have connect very closely to Maine's natural beauty in the outdoors, are at the core of the things that we do here at the Office of Tourism. Again, we're passionate about sharing Maine's extraordinary beauty with everyone, including residents. We try to be resourceful in our work to support the people and places that make one of a kind and make it a place to want to live here and raise your family here and just share it with visitors. A lot of what we do, a lot of our focus this year too has been to be responsible stewards of our community's cultural resources and natural resources. And we strive to help others in their efforts, as we're doing right now, speaking to you guys and working closely with Maine Outdoor Brands, Peter at the SBDC, and we cherish teamwork and collaboration. And so just a little tiny bit of history back in 2022, we unveiled our destination management plan. And with the input of, we're down over 600 resident surveys, over 1,100 visitor surveys, and 657 tourism stakeholder surveys, and a lot of input sessions. These were the 5 strategic imperatives of the Maine Office of Tourism that we're really focusing on for the next couple of years. Obviously, we want to optimize long-term impact, promotion of destination stewardship, and a good example of that, our recent efforts was everyone knows the solar eclipse is coming up. And so we created a solar eclipse toolkit for businesses and organizations to teach people how to visit Maine, how to visit responsibly, how to go, where to go, so that you're safe, and obviously so that you have a very good time as you're coming up here and beginning of April to watch the solar eclipse. And we also have created 9 destination stewardship principles. And these, with stewardship, what we really aim to do with tourism stewardship and destination stewardship is we want to strike that balance, right? We obviously want to grow our industry, but we want to do it in a way that our residents feel that tourism is valuable. It does help the quality of life of the residents, and bring together all the qualities that have always drawn visitors to Maine. And here are our 9 stewardship principles that came out of our destination management plan. Highlighting a few, again, we're really working to safeguard Maine's natural assets, resources, and off the beaten path locations. And it's all about balance. We will really try hard to balance the promotion of Maine's iconic popular destinations with lesser known hidden gems. Like, as we all know, Acadia National Park is the #1 attraction here in Maine. But while you are visiting these popular places, we can also help in influencing decisions, maybe pushing people to some lesser known areas. And again, the areas that want to see responsible growth in tourism. And I just wanted to highlight this slide. This slide also is a result of our destination management plan. We also have a document on our website called A Practical Guide to Destination Stewardship and Sustainable Tourism. So this just kind of like enforces what Peter was saying about the sustainable development of tourism and destination stewardship. And again, none of this can really happen unless we do collaborate with our stakeholders, our community members, the tourism industry, and our visitors. So much of the work we do partner with. We want to partner with all these 4 groups of people so that our tourism development can be sustainable, and we promote destination stewardship all at the same time. And this is just a screenshot of the page. And I think Peter will send out these slides to the group, because you can just click on the link to motpartners.com/destination management plan. Our destination management plan is there, but we also have, you can see the plan highlights one sheet. So if you don't want to, read the 25 or so pages of the destination management plan, we have a really nice put together one sheet that highlights our imperatives, our destination stewardship principles, and what's going on with that. And also the additional materials, like I just said, was the Practical Guide to Destination Stewardship and Sustainable Tourism. It's a long title, but it actually is a really helpful paper that resulted from our destination management planning process. Before I get into some of our Office of Tourism research, I just wanted to kind of this does circle back to what Peter had just mentioned and what Brian had just mentioned. So this kind of connect the dots here about what people are looking for and some national trends from Expedia travelers. Consumers are looking to engage with local communities and cultures. 64% said they are interested in learning more about travel options that support local communities and destinations. We got to all think about the best ways of highlighting accessibility, diversity, and cultural experiences. And then 90% of travelers are looking for sustainable travel options when traveling. So you've really got to communicate how you're sustainable and the ways in which you are, because 7 in 10 also say they've avoided a travel destination or you avoided a transportation option because they're a little skeptical about what you said and it was real as is. And just highlighting outdoor adventure and wellness are some top travel trends among visitors on it. So here is a sneak peek. We just got done crunching the numbers for 2023. So these actually it's kind of a special treat to you guys. These are not published yet, but I wanted to give everyone a little sneak peek. These will be we'll take a deeper dive into these numbers at our governor's conference coming up in just about a month. But 2023, we Maine saw visitation at 50 million visitors, which was slightly down. However, very slightly, visitors are staying longer and spending a little bit more. So again, we're talking about that balance between the right kind of visitor, what the visitor is doing, how long they're staying. I think we're seeing a pretty good balance from the pandemic where travel was kind of outdoor travel especially was kind of booming, but we're actually seeing a higher quality visitor. So that's a plus. Direct tourism expenditures were $8.6 billion. Total economic impact is 15.8 billion, and jobs supported is 151,000. And I want to highlight also here that even though we don't have the statewide 2023 numbers out yet, however, I did just post the regional research. So if you don't know which tourism region you are in, here's a little map. We have 8 of them. And the research is broken down into tourism regions. You can click the link there and get the full 2023 research reports for each region if you're looking to dive a little bit deeper. I'm always available to help answer any questions you have about this research. It's pretty extensive and it's pretty, it does, on the next slides here, we'll kind of connect actually back to Peter's slides about the types of businesses. So we've got the top 4 reasons for visiting. As you can see, nature-based tourism is sprinkled in all of these. It's kind of like sprinkled in like all of what we find in the research. We have relax and unwinding, sightseeing and touring, visiting friends and family, and Peter, you like this, nature and bird watching. That surprises a lot of people. But we've seen that's been a stat for the state of Maine for a number of years. And so those are the top reasons people say they visited. Then once we interview them and what were the activities they did when they were here. And again, food and beverage and culinary experiences come out on top. Obviously with our heritage and culture of aquaculture, lobster industry, oysters are becoming huge now. And just the food options in Maine, the entire state are so phenomenal. Touring and sightseeing is 54%, 52% shopping, and 39% say they participated in active outdoor activities while on vacation here in Maine. And we'll dig, the next couple slides dig a little bit deeper into that category, I believe. So yeah, so this kind of breaks it down a little bit. As you can see, the categories break it out even a little more as you delve a little bit deeper. So there's active outdoor activities. When you combine active outdoor activities, water activities, astrotourism, which is on the rise, even touring and sightseeing, that can all be part of like our nature-based tourism discussion here, because it is such a massive part of why people come and visit our state. When you break touring and sightseeing, when you break that category down, it kind of opens into like a whole bunch of other options. So there's sightseeing, the Rocky Coast. A lot of people just like still, drive around, and wildlife, bird watching, photography. A lot of these examples are what Peter had just mentioned in his previous slides: nature cruises and tours, mountain views, and obviously like the fall colors it's showing up here. And then when you drill down into active outdoor activities, we've got like, back to the slides again, which is cool that we didn't even see our slides before, share our slides with each other. But we've got hiking, climbing, and backpacking as 26% of those, that active outdoor category. State and national parks, camping, biking, riding all-terrain vehicles, mountain biking, fat biking, and again, the list goes on for nature-based activities. And then water activities, going to the beach. Other beaches are a huge asset here, but then there's fishing, canoeing and kayaking, outdoor swimming, with then swimming in pools. That probably comes from like a lot of the hotel stays. Then boating, surfing, sailing, whitewater rafting, and water skiing, and then the bus. So I wanted to, there's way more research than those few slides, but I just wanted to give you a sneak peek, a little highlight of our the tourism research. Again, do go look at the region that you're in. That you'll find a ton of research, and please reach out if you have any questions, especially if you're looking to start a business or maybe branch out to your business that you have right now. Some of that research can be super valuable. MOT Partners is our oh, can you back up just one slide? MOTpartners.com. All of this stuff that's listed below is on MOT Partners. So that's our industry-facing website. So learn more about all this training that we have. And definitely, if you do not have a listing on visitmaine.com, or you have not updated in a while, that would be something to do today, along with the 5 things I'll outline in the next page. So we did some training last year, and it was so popular that we've extended the training. The recordings are still up on motpartners.com because Google plays such a big role in our lives. We did some trainings last year that are still up, but if you click on this link for 5 things you can do today, because 44% of 1,000 travelers surveyed, I think, have visited closed locations because they saw it on Google, on their Google Maps. They typed in, breweries near me, get to the place and it's closed. 73%, and I'm one of them, that I'm very, very unlikely to return if it's listed as open online, but it's closed when you get there. So we have some great training. If you go to the next slide, and a handout. Again, that 5 things you can do today, click on that link and it will go to a handout of 5 things you can do. Go to Google, type in your business, and if it's not claimed, claim it. Keep your hours current. You can add, I think there's over 200 categories and amenities, menus you can be a part of, post new photos regularly, respond to customer feedback. And then if you have, it's about an hour and a half, so you can watch it in sections, but go to the training that we have posted for our destination optimization, because it shows you so many helpful tricks that you can do with your Google listing that will change the way you come up, change how people find you on their navigation app. And then we also do have a free support tool and a Google business checkup tool. You can sign up for office hours. You can spend 15 to 20 minutes with our marketing firm, and they can help you if you get caught up. You have experience some roadblocks when you're updating your Google listing. But I would encourage you get your listing updated before the solar eclipse. If that's something you want to be visible for, or there may be, you're anticipating an influx of visitors before the summertime and that eclipse date is coming up. So make sure your Google business listing is up to date. Just make sure you can be found. That's a tool that we can offer for you guys immediately. And then to wrap up, just a plug for our 2020 Governor's Conference on Tourism. It will be April 24th and 25th this year down in Portland. And we will be unveiling our entire 2023 statewide research at the conference. Most of the conference will be recorded too, so I think you can go back and watch some of these sessions online after. So sign up for our industry newsletter, and we can let you know when those videos are posted. And I'm pretty sure I'm kind of on time, but I'll open it up to any questions for any of us. And again, thanks everyone for joining. We're always available. You can reach out to us at any time here at the Office of Tourism if you have any questions.
Hannah, thank you so much for that. There was a ton of information that
That's a lot.
I want to let people know you will receive a PDF document that's going to be sent to you by email in the next 4 to 6 days, business days. So you'll see that. There will also be a recording on the Maine SBDC YouTube channel, so you can go back and listen to all the things we said if you'd like. But I really appreciate you showing up today on your lunch break. We're kind of pushing up against our end here, so I'm gonna just have you guys email us directly. All of our information is in the PDF, right? So get that shortly. Reach out to us by email, and we're happy to answer any questions. There was a quick one in the chat. What is astrotourism? Hannah, do you want to take that one?
Sure. Pretty much astrotourism has anything to do with, like gazing at the stars. There's two, I believe, official designated dark sky sanctuaries or dark sky parks here in Maine. So anything relating to space is astrotourism. Actually can be during the day too, whether you're visiting an observatory, viewing the solar eclipse is considered astrotourism as well. So anything to do with outer space.
All right, super. Hannah, thank you. Okay, I'm going to wrap up 1 minute early, which never happens to me in a webinar. We always go a little bit long. So I just want to give a special shout out to Brian and Hannah for joining me, for being resource partners in the space. We're happy to help any of our consumers in any way. Please reach out to us. Otherwise, have a great afternoon and hope to see you on email. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.